still this morning on ITV from the Abuja Network Studio right here. I'm Butine Toludapel Butine, and the conversation continues that revolves around 65-year independence of Nigeria, talking about the moment of sober reflection, or probably the moment to celebrate. And then we'll take a look at what it has been in the last 65 years since independence. There have been growth in some areas, and there are some areas we need to work on to get better. Some have talked about the number of schools we had way back in 2060 compared to the number of schools we have right now, and also looking at the healthcare sector and a whole lot of other issues right there. But we must also not forget the growing population right there. Nigeria being the most populous black nation in the world. Is it to our benefit, or probably to also bring pain to us? These are some of the things we'll surely be looking at from the Abuja Network Studio. And also joining me to take a closer look at that is not that person than Barrister Abdul Karim Musa, a legal practitioner. It's a pleasure to have you this morning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me. And I know you've been following up discussions right there. And also I know when you talk about Nigeria 65 years independence, a lot of things will definitely come to mind. But let me first take you down memory lane. And when you talk about Independence Day, well, maybe you can take your mind back to when you were still in primary schools. What was the experience like for you compared to what we have right now?
Thank you for having me, by the way. You know, when we were younger, Independence Day was maybe out of ignorance, was a very exciting moment, a fun-filled day, probably because there was public holidays and all that. But upon adulthood and old age, we begin to have a deeper reflection as to the essence of independence and begin to ask questions. What are we really celebrating? Is there something to celebrate? And there are a lot of issues if we begin to examine. But to limit myself to your question, the experience as a child is different. It's different on several stratas. First is that, okay, as a child, you are happy that everybody is happy there's a public holiday, Nigeria is celebrating. Now, the economy then was also favorable in that during holidays, parents didn't need to start running helter-skelter looking for how to keep their children at home, because children will consume more food when they're at home, and all those kind of worries were not really there. So children could afford to conveniently play around, but the same is not for today. The reality of today is different, so that when there is a holiday, parents begin to, express some level of care as to how to cater for their children. So that's the experience that we've had in Nigeria so far. But then there are other issues we discuss as time goes on.
You just hit a salient point with the cause of saying something instead of what you do, because of your statement. You talked about the fact that when it's during the everyday parents did the experience to get worried. How do we take care of our children? Well, and that brings us to one major thing: security.
Yes.
Because you can't continue shying away from it. You talk about the father growing up, what it used to be like. Your parents will not even worry about you if they don't see you. You know, you're somewhere in one house or stuff like that. They're safe. When it's time, you definitely come back. But this reverse is the case.
Yes.
Parents are no longer sure about the safety of their children. Some are even afraid to let their children leave the corners of their home to go out. And that brings us to a major issue about security. Do you think we have fared well in tackling insecurity in Nigeria in the last 65 years?
Well, you see, again, the backdrop of Nigeria's independence, when we want to analyze the issue of security or the other issues as relating to Nigeria's independence, we must first of all look at it from what are we independent from? Because Nigeria were people who had their own government, who had their own structure of providing security for their society, no matter how low that kind of structure was. Then there was colonization. And so we did not just exist from the day Flora Shaw in 1897 named us Nigeria. We had our own culture, we had our own system of government predating that time. But upon naming us Nigeria, and in 1914, when the Southern and Northern Protectorate were amalgamated, they decided to say we are Nigeria as a country. Then there is something to celebrate, the fact that we have been liberated from that colonization. But we are independent from colonization, but we are not independent from other issues like security. Because it seems like we have not come to understand the idea of independence. Because the essence of independence is for the independent nation to have self-governance, to have sovereignty, to have international relations, to be able to stand it on its own and be recognized by other countries as an independent nation. And it is not just by calling yourself an independent nation. Those characters like self-governance must be there. And if you want to examine self-governance, that is where security comes in. Because you cannot say you are governing yourself very perfectly if you are not able to protect the lives and properties of your citizenry. So Nigeria has not fared very well in terms of security. And if you analyze it, it permeates into all other sectors, the matter of insecurity. Previously, people go to farms, they could cultivate whatever, and then we were feeding from the produce of farmers in Nigeria. But the farmers in Nigeria as it is today do not even feel safe to go to their farms anymore as a result of terrorism, banditry. And the resultant effect is that there will be no food. The resultant effect is also telling on the economy. And it also tells on other issues of security. When the economy is low and people do not have jobs, they do not see food, they go into crime. And then it affects all other sectors
of the society.
And then it will be needless to begin to count several issues of insecurity that we have experienced in Nigeria over the years. So it is getting worse by the day, to the point that today, if you hear that people die, 100 people die, it's no longer a big deal. But I remember in the earlier days of my existence, when you hear that 7 people were killed, there is a national uproar.
Even if somebody dies on the street, everybody tends to talk about it.
Everybody gathers and people talk about it. Today you hear that 200 people died in Yerota, and it's not a big deal. And there are political gimmicks surrounding it. And the president will visit the venue and now turn the visit into a political rally. It shows that there is inhumanity. The government has lost sight of its primary duty of protecting security and safety for the properties and lives of Nigerians. So security has not been very well dealt with in Nigeria.
Let's talk about one of those policies of this administration that also has, to a certain extent, has brought so much pain to people of this nation. From time immemorial, we've always enjoyed subsidy in so many sectors of our society, in electricity, in water, and most importantly, in the oil sector. But this administration came and removed fuel subsidy. A lot of people have complained about the pain. Would you say our past government have failed in doing what they are supposed to do, or probably this decision taken by the present administration is the right step in the right direction?
Well, in my view, I like to think that it is an irresponsible decision. And the reason why I say that is because the president and very eminent Nigerians have come out to say that there was need to remove subsidy, that there were a lot of corruptions going about subsidy, that the people that are benefiting from subsidy are so few, and that it were the bourgeoisies that were benefiting from subsidy. And so they needed to remove subsidy and divert the funds that were used for the subsidizing fuel into other areas that will benefit Nigerians. It was against this backdrop that subsidy was removed. Unfortunately, subsidy is the only common patrimony that the Nigerian people were enjoying. And it only benefits every level of the society, because of the subsidization of petroleum, which is the only, the prominent resource that Nigeria has, and Nigeria has tapped into. Every strata of the society benefits from this subsidy. Now subsidy was removed. One would ordinarily expect that the president of this government will put in place measures to ameliorate or cushion the effect or the hardship that has been imposed by the removal of subsidy. Unfortunately, the government did not take measures that are practical, that are visible to the Nigerian people, that would ameliorate the hardship that removal of subsidy has occasioned. So, we saw cases when the President Jonathan removed just a little sum from subsidy, you see the diverted funds into shopping, into all areas that every Nigerian was at least benefiting something, even when subsidy was removed. Immediately this government removed subsidy, the price of fuel skyrocketed. Everything. And then, one would expect that, okay, they said there were going to be schemes for public transport. There is nothing. There is nothing that the Nigerians are benefiting. So the government received these monies and started distributing it to governors. So governors are eating fat on this subsidy that was removed. So it was like subsidy was removed. The common patriot money, the only benefit that the Nigerian populace had, was removed and diverted to the governors under the pretext that the governors were now going to use it for the benefit of the people, knowing that many of these governors have no system in place to check what they would use the monies for. So it's an irresponsible decision in light of the fact that the government does not have any structure. The federal government does not have any structure to check the governors that you are giving these monies to. Yeah. And you are giving money to them. By the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the state government is a tier of government, and it has its own independence in administering its affairs. So even if the federal government does not in the Constitution have any authority to checkmate how a state government utilizes its resources. Only the state houses of assembly can checkmate the activities of the governor. So why is the president giving monies that he removed from subsidy to the governors who he cannot check how they are using these monies? So you see many of them building facades, doing make-believe projects, like doing a flyover when people have not eaten. Many of them have screened people out, reduced workforce, and then the only achievement they have now is payment of salaries. And now it seems to be a political strategy by this president that because of the kind of money is churning out to the governors are inclined to giving him support for 2027. So it's a political strategy at the expense of the lives, the safety, the preservation of the lives of the Nigerian people. So I continue to say that it is an irresponsible decision, because as it is now, the government does not seem to take cognizance of the need of the Nigerian people. If you look at the project that the Nigerian government is embarking on, first, the ones that they claim that the Nigerian populace will benefit from, Nigerians are not indeed benefiting. We cannot see the Nigerians that are indeed benefiting. We have not seen a publication of the names or the description of the people, for instance, who have benefited from student loan. Those are the projects that they claim to be doing, where they are not giving loans.
It's also the credit card, where we also get small loans to buy lands.
Yes, we have not seen any detailed list.
Or how people can even access those
how
things.
People can access it, or people who have benefited. But the ones that we can see is somebody like Minister of Aviation coming up with a budget of running into trillions. How they want to renovate the Lagos airport with billions of naira, how they want to renovate the Kano airport, the Port Harcourt airport with billions of naira, and you begin to wonder who the user of this airline. It is still the privileged few. If an average Nigerian has cost to travel by air, it is not as frequent. Even if Nigerian travel,
the cost of flight is even above.
Yes, it's exorbitant. So it is for the few privileged Nigerians. So as you can see, they are channeling resources to areas where the privileged Nigerians can benefit. Now, another achievement you hear this government talk about, it's in Abuja. What percentage of Nigerians does the FCT host, assuming that the FCT minister is so good and is delivering well? How many Nigerians reside in the Federal Capital Territory? So you see that this government does not seem to have the interest of the Nigerian people at heart. I want to finally say on this point that government is a social contract. A social contract is a contract that the government has with the people, that it is by virtue of my submission to you as a citizen that you provide security, safety, economic benefits for me, and those things are called dividends of democracy.
Yeah.
Because a dividend is like the benefit I derive if I invest in something. So the dividend that I should derive because I submitted myself to a democracy is that government should provide for me. As it is now, the Nigerian people are living in acute helplessness and hopelessness, and Nigerians have not driven any substantial dividend from this purported democracy we claim to be practicing.
Interesting right there. I've been talking with Barrister Abdul Karim Musa right there, talking about Nigeria's independence, and it's really getting more and more interesting. But one area that we would like to dovetail into also is education in the last 65 years. Compared to what we used to have. Way back during the independence period, we only have two institutions, talking about the University of Ibadan, talking about the President and Yaba College. But from that time, the number of institutions has improved. I think the last time we have about 374 universities, not to talk about the polytechnics and colleges of education and students, anything like that. But we do see, with the increase in number of universities, and standard of education are you better off?
Well, the truth is that in any government, education is the foremost aspect of society that the government should focus on, because it is the education that you offer to your people, to the citizens, that will reflect on who the citizen becomes. That is why you see that in advanced countries, they insist that at the tender age of their citizens, they provide free education. At that point, they sell the idea that they want the citizens to believe to the citizens. If you go to places like China and you see their curriculum, they begin to teach people, their pupils.
Right, so let me hold your thoughts a little bit. Let's just quickly go on this quick commercial break. We'll be right back with the discussion on the areas of education. That's what the barrister is talking about. We'll continue after this break.